Peace does not come before salvation, and salvation does not come without truth.
I will only tell the truth. I will only tell the truth. Truth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Godcast, the Goodness Over Darkness podcast. I'm your host, Todd Armstrong, and today I have Mimi, my girlfriend, back on for another episode. So, everybody, welcome Mimi.
Hello. Back for round two.
Now, could you hear the applause that when I hit it through my mixer? Could you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know what's up with that. So, I was trying to play music for Mimi right through, this recording, but it wasn't working. But now my mixer buttons go through. I don't know why that didn't happen. But anyway, I don't want to get too sidetracked right at the beginning. But anyway, today, Mimi and I are going to discuss dating, pretty much. Not necessarily each other. We will get to there, but we want to start off in talking about how it is when we were single, and that we were, maybe trying too hard probably isn't the right word, but it was
No.
just that everything was top of mind. So we're going to talk about when we were single, and then how we have meshed and what it's like growing with somebody, being in a relationship with somebody who is healing with you. So it's the traumas, the fights still occur, but they're very much different result, and they're handled in a healing capacity, in order to heal, not necessarily healing in the moment, but at the end of the day, everything gets worked out. And when one of us is wrong, we immediately and profusely apologize, and we get on with our lives. We don't have this thing anymore. But let's start when we were single. And so we were talking just before we started recording, and we were talking about how we both kind of felt that we were complete, in a sense, as single parents, as we were okay with being single. Hold
Right.
on one sec. All right,
Mhm.
sorry about that, guys. The dog started going crazy. Okay, so Mimi, you were about to say, we were talking about how we were when we were single, and what did you feel like at let's say, towards the end of 2019 and the beginning of 2020? How did you feel as a person, as a single mother with 3 children, two grown children?
Yes.
Like,
So
so what was your mindset in the dating game back then?
the last day of 2019 was coincidentally uh, the day that I was like, from now on, it's going to be all about me. 2020 is going to be all me. It's going to be all me. And I don't care about anything else. I don't care about dating. I don't care about, all the things that have to go along with that. I'm just going to not focus on that part. I'm
And
going to
just to
focus on everything else.
Okay, that's all stuff that I was doing too. But I just want to give the audience a little background. And to Mimi has always been into spiritual things, and she actually was
Mhm.
doing vision boards in 2018 and 2019.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
2019 and 2020.
so Mimi is a very
2019 and 2020. Yeah.
okay. She's a very goal oriented person. She sets
And I
goals
always
and
did
she meets
them
them.
on the, last week of the year. So maybe because I don't know. I
Right.
always did them getting ready for the new year.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so like a New Year's resolution, but like for multiple things, not just one resolution. If anyone doesn't know what a vision board is, it's just multiple goals that you want to set for yourself and
Or we
things
can
that you
post
want to focus
pictures.
on. Right, yeah. And she had all these amazing things when I came with the vision boards. They were incredibly detailed, but she's a goal setter and she hits her goals. So when you say that you were just focusing on you, could you give our listeners a little bit of detail into what you kind of set aside for yourself? Like, what were some of the things that you wanted to accomplish with that mind
So
frame?
I started doing more yoga. I started,
A
I was
specific kind
still,
of yoga?
no, no, any kind of yoga, I would go to different classes, so it didn't matter. Um, it just felt good. It felt relieving.
Mm.
Uh, Keto, I did that well, I'm still sort of doing keto, kind of, teetering.
Yeah, and we can talk
But
about that some other time,
yeah, so
keto
I
and
had a
how.
weight loss thing going on, and, I was really focusing on my inside and my outside at the same time.
So you kind of had, it seems like maybe you had the mind frame of bettering yourself, getting more in touch with you.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people that do yoga, they say it's this very spiritual thing to them. It's not the movements, it's what it brings you, is what people are so drawn to come back to yoga, is that the spiritual nature of it. Is that correct for
And
you?
you can do yoga at any age. It's not, as it can be strenuous, sort of, and you can sweat during it for sure.
Mhm.
But there are so many modifications that any person of any age with any issue can modify and still get something from a yoga class,
Yeah, that's what I like about Tai Chi. It
even if
doesn't
they just learn
matter.
a new way of breathing.
Yeah, that's all it's about, is just moving energy around. And even though it may seem to somebody you just maybe you're sitting down and you're not doing the full thing, but it is you're if you're putting effort into it, you're really doing it. It's just you're pushing your limits. Maybe your limits are a little less than others, but it doesn't really matter because it just matters your intention. And so.
Right, and it's a very good beginning way to focus on your breathing, like with a group of people that you're, a set time every week. Because I'm not really one to do yoga, in my living room by myself. I will if I force myself to, but I'd much rather do it in a group setting, uh,
Mm.
where you can just feel the energy, like really feel the energy,
Yeah, and I talked about that.
everyone's energy.
I talked about my weight loss episode how going somewhere, setting a designated time, maybe a
Mm-hmm.
time, but designated
Mm-hmm.
area that you have to leave your house, because what happens when it's at your house is you get in front of that TV and you're like, I'm just going to slink down into the couch. I'm going to have a little snack instead of exercising like you're supposed to.
Right.
So when you go somewhere, when you have the mind frame of, I'm going here to do this, then you're going to do it. You're going to push yourself.
And subconsciously, you're like, these people are going to hold me accountable if I'm
Yeah.
not, doing it correctly, or if I don't show up one day, they're going to hold me accountable. They're going to ask me where I was.
Right, because we're judging them, even though we're
And
not
they're
judging
judging
them.
us.
Right, right. We're not actually like, oh, this is a
No,
bad person,
we're
but we
no,
are judging them and they are judging us. It's a reflection of one another.
right. We're
So we
reflecting off of
know,
them. Yes.
right, and subconscious, and a lot of people do this with projecting. A good way to show this is how people cheating in relationships, how the cheater always is assuming that the other person's cheating.
Mm,
So and that's very common when you talk to people. They're like, the cheater always is
right.
the accuser because it's
Right.
the guilty conscience, it's the projection. So when we're judging someone else harshly, well, I guess depending on how harshly we judge someone else is how harsh we think they're judging us. It's projection, it's not real at all. uh, it is because it's what we're doing in the moment, but we can stop
Mm-hmm.
it. So that's what I mean, it's not real. So that judgment thing, that really, and it doesn't even have to be a specific group. Like you had your specific group of yoga that you like to go to. I just went to the
Right. I had a
gym.
couple specific groups at that time. Yeah.
Right, but I went to the gym, and it wasn't that I was necessarily like, other people were holding me accountable. I didn't necessarily have friends in the gym, but it
Hmm.
was just knowing other people were gonna be there. It's an accountable thing, like, am I working as hard as I can because other people are judging me? That's what my mindset was.
Right. But I think at the beginning of 2020, I was like, I don't even care if these people are judging me. I want to be here and I want to do this.
That's beautiful. Okay, so, uh, were you doing anything else? So you said you wanted to do the yoga, you were doing the keto.
Yeah, I was
What other
trying all
goals?
kinds of things. So I was, I've always been into getting my massages and Reiki and readings and things like that. So I did a lot of that. Um, I did some singing bowl sessions and uh,
Oh, wow.
in this city where you just kind of you show up, you bring a mat and you lay and you listen to the singing bowls, and it's a group of you, and you can just again feel the energy, and it's something that just does something for you that you don't know what it is, but you know that it feels good, and it does something for you. It just does.
Yeah,
So you,
that sounds amazing.
yeah, that was cool. I haven't tried the floating yet. Those little salt, what is
The
it?
float
Salt
tanks?
floats? Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I did a
haven't
float
tried a
tank.
float tank yet, but there is one, a new one around here that
It's
maybe we should go to.
it's so funny that you're saying all these different things because that's almost exactly what I was doing for myself. So just before we get too deep into Mimi, I just want to bring it back to me. So where I was pretty much the same thing. I was beat down from the dating world. I didn't want to do online dating anymore. I was doing online dating heavily in my mid 20s because I was so timid and so afraid of rejection in my early 20s and mid 20s and all that. I was so timid and afraid of rejection that never would approach somebody, an attractive woman, especially. I would be very timid. And, it's funny now that I have the podcast or anybody that knows me, they're like, "You're not timid." Like, my friends wouldn't, from when I was a teenager, wouldn't ever have thought that I was timid, in any manner, but I was very timid. And
I think everybody just reaches a point at some different point in their life that it's just like, doesn't matter what, it
right,
doesn't matter what
that
anybody else, like, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna say what I'm gonna say, do what I'm gonna do. Doesn't matter.
right, and that's when I said, "Fuck it." That's when I was like, "You know what? I don't care no more. I'm just gonna go do it. I'm gonna go start
Yeah.
trying to talk to women." I'm trying to better myself this whole time, and I'm telling myself that I'm like, a thing I gotta better myself at is, talking to women that I wanna talk to.
Right, because you're not gonna find anyone just tiptoeing around them and not talking to them. So,
Exactly.
that
Exactly.
was a good plan.
Yeah, yeah, I know, yeah, I always saw this meme that said, "I never go anywhere, so, my soulmate, is probably gonna break into my house," or something like that. Like, that's the only way I'm gonna meet my soulmate if they break in. And
Right.
it's like, that kinda happened with us, like, not necessarily, like, breaking in, but, it's we weren't
Broke
expecting
through
it.
the matrix.
Yeah, so, I was so beat down from online dating. I was like, "No, I'm not doing that no more." So then I was hitting the
Isn't
bar.
that like a whole show in itself, online dating? Ugh.
It's so difficult too, and there's so many it's so not real. Like, you wanna
It's
talk
so not
everything's
real.
fake. Yeah, everything on there is
So
so
not
fake.
real.
Like, anyone you're attracted to isn't real, and anyone, like,
Right.
that
It's just to get your money. It's like, give me your money. Give me your
yeah,
money. Give me your money.
yeah, so
Join us. Join us. We'll send you more people just like us that are invisible.
right, and I'm sure that people do find each other that way, but it's very rare. It's not like it's advertised anyway, and
Right.
even the way Tinder's talked about, everyone way over exaggerates and how much
Yeah, I
action
don't
they get on
really think
Tinder.
that's for dating and the
No,
dating
yeah, but
sense.
well, I mean, it's still the same type of thing for me in that mindset, that was
Yeah.
still the same type of deal for me. But, yeah, not as many people are getting as much action as they say. But, I was done with all of that. And I was hitting up the bars, and I was never a bar person, and I was going to the bar by myself, and that was something very new for me, going out in public by myself.
That's dangerous.
Yeah, that's how I felt. But there was this little bar just a block away from my apartment, so I just went there most of the time. And then I stopped doing that because that didn't work out too well. But what ends up happening is I stop doing the online dating thing. Then I'm like, all right, well, I have the mindset of I still want a partner. I'm talking this is like 2018, 2019. I'm like, I want a partner. After 2018, but well, I had my one long-term girlfriend, not long-term, but a few month girlfriend between there. But still, my mindset was the same: was that I wanted a partner, and didn't know where I would find this partner at. So what ends up happening is you don't when you're open to, oh, anybody could be the one for me at any given moment. It's in the back of your mind all the time.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
you're always chasing. And, I was coaching softball. Uh, and there's plenty of,
Did you ever find yourself like just seeing people and you think that same thought and you're like, this could happen at any time, and you're like, and then you just start molding people in your brain that you walk by, you're like, Could that work? Could that work? Could that be the one?" And you just start
exactly.
making up these whole stories in your head.
Right. Right. Yeah. And like, so I would coach softball, and then, of course, there's good looking moms that are single and whatever, aunts or whatever. So then uh, you're not always, but you have the thought in your mind, oh, like you were just saying, like you make the story up, but not just softball, but going to the gym. So I'm seeing, delivery driver, and I go to different universities, so I'm seeing attractive women all the time. But I'm like, look, when I'm at work, I want to be a professional. When I'm coaching softball, I want to be professional. When I'm at the gym, I don't want a woman to feel like she's being objectified. So then I set all these boundaries again, and then I wasn't into that mindset. But it was always there was still that time. That's why I would do the online dating, or that's why I would do uh, going to the bar, because I set boundaries for myself, what I would allow myself to get into. And, I wasn't doing it at work, wasn't doing it at the gym, and wasn't doing it at softball. And that was like the three major things in my life. And then, things didn't work out at the bar the way I was hoping. I was just getting drunk and not really seeing anyone I was attracted to. And it was just like, what am I doing? And then I had the
It's not the
spiritual
place.
awakening. Yeah, then
Yeah.
I had the spiritual awakening, and I said, "Fuck it. I'm done." I'm just looking out for me, and I started exploring my consciousness, and then
You're
December
kind of like, I'm
31st.
done trying to look for somebody to do this with me. I'm just going to do it with myself, and F all of you. I'm just going to do this myself.
Well, not necessarily, not at that point. At that point, I was like, "Look, I just give up dating." I just, I went from always having in the back of my mind the chase of there
Hmm.
could be the one to I was like, just gonna be by myself. I'm telling myself. I'm not saying like I could be
Yeah, I'm
by
fully
myself.
prepared.
Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
I and I was already at the point that, not that I asked for things, but on Mother's Day, I would get Mother's Day gifts from different friends. Different female friends would give me gifts because I was father and mother. I was a complete package, and for myself. And December 31st rolled around, and I made that New Year's resolution to be celibate for 100 days. And it was like, what that did is that triggered, you and I were both doing our own versions of the same thing to come together so that we could meet and be together. But we had to learn to be our own, to be complete by ourselves, and to really not just say we don't need anyone else, but to really feel that we didn't need anyone else.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's when both of us met each other, because when we were talking, it was never anything close to being sexual between the two of us ever in
Right.
the early going.
Right.
So, when we had met, before we met, we knew what we looked like and all, and we chatted quite often. Not even in a little flirty type of way, not a little puppy dog love type thing. We just talked as friends, and we just said what was going
Then we
on in our
video
lives.
chatted as friends, but like it wasn't,
Right, it was
you
never
know.
anything mildly suggesting anything else. So it was genuinely very nice to have someone of the opposite sex to have a conversation with, and it didn't have anything to do with sex at all. So then we we meet up, and
What day was that?
the July 4th weekend, I guess it was July 3rd,
Right, July 3rd.
right? And uh we had such a good weekend, and it was just like, for me, I'll say for me, it was the little things, the stupid little things that you wouldn't even consider, is what I was like, oh, I could do this every day. Because at the time, I was into Trump because, first off, the lockdowns drove me into Trump, because Trump was saying, like, we need to stop the lockdowns and all that. And I see all the Trump supporters having all these different boat parades and all that shit.
Right, and
So,
I think a lot of people that listen to you, they think that you started with Trump, but you didn't, and that is always a good story to tell, that you didn't start there.
yeah, I didn't like Trump at all. Yeah, 2016, I didn't vote, but I would have voted for Hillary. I was actually in jail. No,
Yee.
no, no, I was out. I was out by the time. Yeah, I know. I would have voted for her. And when I woke up the next morning, I was like, "Is this real?" I was like, "Is Donald Trump really president?" And I was on Facebook saying how, I didn't like him because he had the remark of "grab her by the pussy" and all the different things. And I was like,
Mm.
"How can we have this person as a role model?" And blah blah blah. But I wasn't into politics at all. So, as 2017 went on, I found out about Pizzagate, and I was like, oh yeah, that Pizzagate shit's real. And me and my dad talked about it. And then I still didn't like them, and it wasn't until the Super Bowl halftime show that I was like, all right, wait a second. What the fuck is going on here? Because all this symbolism is what the pedophilia is. This symbolism is what the child trafficking is. And
Right,
then
so
I
you
find
just,
out about the QAnon, and I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, oh, Trump's a good guy. And then COVID happens, and I'm like, oh, Trump's taking down all the pedophiles. And then all the he's going up against the quote unquote against the Democrats, and
right, so
he's
that swayed you a little bit.
right, and he was saying how we should open up, and we shouldn't mandate masks, and he was saying all the things that I wanted to hear about the situation. So I'm like, yeah, like, we were both into Trump. You were more so into Trump, but what happened was the 4th of July, like,
I
before
really,
QAnon, you were into Trump. I mean, before QAnon. So when
yeah,
4th
but
of
I wasn't into QAnon,
right,
you know.
right, not necessarily QAnon itself, but I'm just saying
Right.
you. So what happened for me was that weekend he had that big speech at the what's it called? The where was it? It's the president's, the monument in
Um,
Minnesota.
oh, Rushmore.
Yeah, yeah, Mount Rushmore. So he had
Hmm.
that big speech, and we watched it, and it was like, oh, so I come in, and it
Yeah,
was
we
just
were.
like the two of us just watch it together, and I was just like, I could do this for uh, you know, like this is one of the little things that I was talking about. Like this is something that I could do on a nightly basis. I could be with this person and be watching, Trump thing. Like we were into the
Well,
same
it
type of
wasn't.
things.
Yeah.
What?
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
But it was just that like this is what life could be on a regular basis, and it was very much like, okay, I can do this. So it was just that little thing that I was like, huh, like I never thought about Mimi that way, but I was like, this is really nice. So that weekend, uh it was just magical. We went to the beach and nobody had masks on, and it was just like, oh yes, like I was so happy. uh so anyway, that was, those little things of, it wasn't a big gesture that you made. It was just, I saw how you lived and I was like, oh, I could fit into her life, I could mold into this. Did you feel that at all?
Um, I used to do that a lot with a lot of, you know, like we were just talking about making up stories in our head. And, when you walk by people, I mean, you naturally would walk into somebody's house and just be like, I wonder if I could live here, you know?
Well, see, I didn't do that at the
Even if
time.
it's just a thought in your mind, and it's not related to some sort of relationship status.
See, I didn't do that at the time when I met you. That's what was different, was that I wasn't.
Right.
I
And I wasn't looking for like, would he fit in here? I
Right, so that's what
wasn't.
I'm saying. Did you notice was there anything that weekend that you were like, I
Um, I don't know. I don't think that I did. Like I just, it wasn't like that's not what I was paying attention to. That's what I'll say. It's not what I was focused on. I was just like, okay, I need to show them some cool stuff around here because they're only here for a day or so. Let's show them around, and my aunt was here, so it was like, all right, there's extra company. So I got to kind of host everyone.
but it was I mean, obviously it was a magical weekend. We spent the entire weekend together. My hotel got canceled or didn't get booked somehow, and then I ended up coming back and we stayed the weekend. And it really was a magical weekend. The entire thing was just very good. And
And nothing between us happened.
right,
Well, I
right.
just
You
want to say
actually
that, like, as even though you're saying all these adjectives, and it's magical and it was this and that, it wasn't magical in that
yeah,
sort of
no
way. I
sexual
mean,
way at
because
all.
we weren't. That wasn't. That
That
wasn't.
wasn't our mindset.
Yeah.
Neither of us. But and
Right.
actually, so I'll say this, that Sunday, so we left Monday morning, Maya and I left, but that Sunday night, I tried kissing Mimi, and not that
Well,
I
you
didn't
asked.
want to. Right, right, I did ask, and it
And
wasn't that I.
go ahead.
Well, hold on one sec. Yeah, let me just set it up. So it's not that I didn't necessarily want to, but it was just that I kind of felt like maybe I should, again, because of that mindset of like it creep back in. Like I said the night before when Trump had that speech and I was in that setting and I was said, what if? So the next day that was in my mind and I was like, well, I don't want to, if she wants to kiss me and she's waiting for me to make the first move and then I don't do anything, so I was like, so I asked to kiss you, and you said no.
That's right.
but it was because that creeped back into my mind, and you didn't allow it to creep into your mind
And
like you
I'm
just
not
said.
sure, maybe I was just still in the mindset of, I don't need anybody right now. I'm not looking for anybody right now. It's not what I care about right now. And maybe that's why I said no, because
Well,
it
I
just
think
wasn't a priority for me.
and I think that that is the reason why I ended up moving back here 3 weeks later,
Because it wasn't a priority.
because what happened
Right.
was we weren't we saw how each other were. We saw just who we were. We didn't know the background stuff about each other. We saw what we saw and we observed what we observed. And like we knew, even though none of the stuff was sexual, it was magical. Our connection right away was we knew that we were the same being. And I don't mean that like I don't know how people will take that saying that we're the same being, but there is a being, one being that is made up of Mimi and I. This is how I see it. And every couple has this, and it's a one life force between the two of us. And we just had parallel lives. Our lives were so not exactly the same, but the way things happen were the same in different ways. Just my interpretation and what I did versus your interpretation what you did. It's like we completed everything that the other one didn't have.
Hmm.
It's like if life is a circle
Uh-huh.
and any one little any incident is a circle. If you cover, 75% of that circle, but you didn't get to experience the other 25%, I experienced that other 25%. But most of the things we have overlap each other. But where I
Right.
haven't experienced, you did experience, and where you didn't experience, I did experience. So it was like we were completed. And when we were with each other, we both felt it and we both didn't know what it was because it wasn't something I ever felt before. Like I
Hmm.
said, I felt more compelled than anything to ask to kiss you. I didn't necessarily want to because that's the only thing I knew at that time was, oh, I should try to kiss her or ask her to kiss or whatever. And that's just not how that's not how it was supposed to go. So you held the correct standard and uh and what that showed is that we were both trusting in something larger than ourselves. The one being that we are together, which would be God, just a bigger piece of God than you and I are separately. Together we are stronger than when we are alone, but we were both complete masculine and feminine mothers and father, relationship. We loved ourselves. We finally found ourselves. We wanted to be alone. We wanted to better ourselves. Is that fair to say?
Right. 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 We wanted to go inside, deep inside, and do the work.
Right. And we completed ourselves. And what that did for us was that allowed us to align with each other in this phenomenal way that God put us together and was like, oh no, now that you want to be alone, nope, not gonna happen. Guess what? Here's your soulmate.
Right. Now
And
that you filled up all that space that you left empty for so long, you're gonna have to clear it back out again because somebody else is gonna put their stuff there now. I
yeah.
had for the longest time I had the other side of the closet in there, like just empty.
What in our walk-in closet?
Like I was just holding space.
Holding
And
space.
then, the one day where, whatever day it was, in 2020, I'm sure, And I was like, oh, you know what? That's all my closet. And I'm going to put my stuff everywhere. Like, I own that whole thing. That's all mine.
Oh,
And
nice.
then, yeah. And then, halfway through the years, like, move your stuff back out. Somebody's moving in.
Well,
Matter of fact, move half of your house out and somebody's moving in.
yeah, and not just move it out, just donate it. Don't even worry
Just
about
get rid of
selling
half
any
the
of it.
stuff you
Just
own. Just
get
get
rid of
rid
all
of
of it.
it. Right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So,
very quick.
over the next 3 weeks, we fell in love like, I guess, like puppy
Like
love
the
type
three
thing.
weeks while that you were gone, that you
Right.
didn't kiss me, that we were just friends, that you were just, back home, whatever. It was, you're right. It just kind of happened.
Right. And so the amazing part for me, and the part that's hardest to believe for anyone on the outside looking in, because on the outside looking in, people see me, I'll say for me, people see me as a crazy
Hmm.
person. My family sees me as a crazy person who was a drug addict and went to prison and is now, into conspiracy theories and
Which is
likes
a man
Trump.
that I did not know. I did not know that man until recently, really,
Right.
you know.
Right. But, I'm just saying, at
Right.
that time, I mean, you knew that I was in, obviously, I wasn't shy about my Q
No,
knowledge and
I'm just
information.
saying for everyone listening that I didn't know anything of your past.
Right.
Um, because, you were my friend. I didn't need to dig. I had no need to want to know. And if I wanted to know, I'd have looked it up, because that's the kind of person I used to be. I would scope out
Oh,
everyone.
yeah, you were saying that.
Everyone was a suspect before they were, my date.
Right.
I had to go research because I had children and I had to be safe and so usually I would research before then, but I didn't do that because it didn't matter.
Because we were just
'Cause-
friends.
right.
Right. And I wasn't even supposed to stay the weekend. I was just coming down here, because I wanted to
Yeah,
go
to
somewhere
hang out.
where masks weren't mandated and Georgia
Hmm.
was open, was the only state open. So I was like, oh, I know her. I'll go down there. And I was supposed to just hang out like on Friday and maybe Saturday, but it was me and Maya were going to do stuff together. So it wasn't any necessarily a reason for us to think that anything was going to happen. But so you were saying you didn't know about my past, which, yeah, she didn't know. I mean, I never hid it from anybody
No, not
at
that I
all, but
asked
I
and
just
not that,
never said it on
hmm
Twitter. It was just, when I was on Twitter, I was tweeting about, the QAnon stuff and conspiracy theories, and I was researching a lot. And uh, but what I was saying was my family, you know, th- they they think that I lost my mind completely now because, you know, I was just I telling them about conspiracy theories and they already think I'm crazy. Now I'm telling them that in 3 weeks I'm moving to Georgia with my
Right.
daughter who they all helped raise while I was in jail and all. Like my parents had Maya primarily, and then my brother and his wife, they uh, are a big part of her life still. And, it was very hard for all of them uh, because they thought I was crazy. And now I'm moving in with this woman, and I'm telling them, I'm like, look, I don't know if we're even going to be together. I was like, you know, I
I'm
don't
just gonna
know.
stay there while I look for a place. That was the
That was the
plan, I
original
guess.
plan, right?
Well, yeah. Well, it wasn't the original plan, but it did dwindle down to that as the plan. Yeah.
Right. Right, but
Hmm.
and then, as we just as time unfurled, it was like, "Oh, you know, this is we're soulmates." We could feel the connection, we knew there was something
Welcome
there.
home.
Right, And what I was getting at earlier was that the most unbelievable part for everybody else, but the most reliable part for both of us, which is the most important part, that other people, they don't get it if they don't know what God is, if they don't have a connection with God. But we both
Mhm.
trusted God that we were doing the right thing. We didn't necessarily trust each other. We didn't necessarily know each other to trust each other, but we were
Right.
trusting God. And I think that was the most important thing to me, that we weren't
Yeah,
putting.
there was a driving force for sure, but we just couldn't, I mean, it had to be something.
Yeah, we weren't putting our trust in each other necessarily. It was we were both putting our trust into God. And that's why we were just giving our stuff away. Like, I gave away a ton of stuff because I was coming down and I was like, well, I don't need to bring everything. What do you need? And you're like, well, I don't need anything. And so we compromised. And when I got down here, so we would dwindled my stuff down and I just gave away everything. And my parents are like, well, why you could be selling this stuff? And I'm like, look, if I need it at some point later on,
I'll
God
get
will
it.
supply me with it. Like, I'll get it. It's not gonna be anything difficult. I'll get it if I need it. So we dwindled it down. Then we come down here and we're like, oh, where are we gonna put everything? And you end up getting rid of some of your stuff. I end up getting rid of more of my stuff, and we work it out to where it is now. But that's so symbolic of the emotional and mental and spiritual state that was happening with us. It was a
Hmm.
symbolism of the physical representation of us, of me coming into your home.
Right.
The
And what I can keep internally and what I can start to get rid of now.
right,
Um, what I can start to work through now, really.
right. What I can fill you with,
Mm,
and what you can get rid of that doesn't serve you any longer.
right.
All these new things, and people uh, don't really know this. They do know it, but they don't necessarily know it, that the female is everything physical is the female, and everything that fills in the female is the male. You just look at a plug. You take two ends of extension cord. You got the male and the female, and it's with everything. The male always goes into the female. So this is your house that I came into, and it was, you moved out your possessions and filled your home with mine, my couch and my kitchen set and just, not
Right.
everything, but
Right.
just a few different things. And it's like, oh, like I am filling you. It was it's very much what occurred and is still occurring with us now in our relationship together. That
Mm,
we're working it out to where, we're mixing it so well.
yeah.
Yes. So I want to now get to the part where, we're helping heal each other from past relationship traumas.
Mm.
So, we moved in and everything was like
And that kind of happened
perfect.
unintentionally, but
Oh, yeah.
organically.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because everything was perfect for the first month, 2 months. I mean, it was literally, you know, perfect. Like that whole the rest of that summer, it was just I was making meals that I've never made before, and they were coming out like the best meal you could, I swear, on anything. I was like on a whole nother level last summer. I don't even, I was vibing so high, and I was just whatever I touched turned to gold. It was like for real. It was so strange that I don't even remember uh, the recipes for the things I was cooking, and I've tried cooking them since, and they aren't as good. They were just everything was on point last summer. So, since then, obviously, things, the warm welcome necessary, not that word, but for lack of a better
The
word,
honeymoon phase.
yeah, the honeymoon phase, it wore down like it does with anybody. But what ends up happening is we start healing each other, and not even knowingly at first. For a while, actually, I think we were healing each other, not even knowing it.
Hmm. I
So,
think in the beginning we were just confronted with new issues, we didn't understand the full aspect of the full circle aspect
well,
of the issues.
I don't think it was new issues. I think it was the same
No,
issues with new characters. And
yes,
and because we understood it was a new character, that we knew we shouldn't apply the blame because this character didn't do that to us. We're going
right,
to
right.
So we were changing ourselves by recognizing, by observing that, oh, we're doing the same patterns with this new person. Let me not do that.
Hmm.
Let me not bring my bullshit baggage in. But uh so that, I mean, that is perfect what you just said, because we didn't necessarily know that that's what we were doing, but it was exactly what we were doing because it was a new person, and we gave that new person the opportunity. You know, you have someone's trust until you lose it, and once you lose it, then it's hard to get back. So I feel that in that same type of mindset, that we didn't want to lose each other, so we just, changed ourselves.
Hmm. Yeah, and I
Okay.
think we were already working on ourselves anyway, so we were already, so we were aware. We were very hyper aware of what was happening.
Right, because we were mid spiritual awakening, and we were to the point in both of our spiritual awakenings where, you know, like I said, I was vibing so high last summer because of all my spiritual practices. And while your spiritual practices weren't the same as mine, but you were
Mm-mm.
very deep into your own very spiritual practices. So we were both very deep into ourselves. Uh, and
Right.
then it came forward, and so we were just continuing to work on ourselves. It's like, oh, now we're working on our relationship issues. And it's not
Hmm.
even that it's always a, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever you want to call it. It's not always those issues that you and I will work on together either. There,
Right.
it's
Could
anything,
be
any
anything.
interaction, right? Any interaction
Yeah.
with the feminine.
Anyone. Hmm.
Yeah, like nowadays, it's any interaction with the feminine. I can see it, you know, my issue uh work itself out through you, and I'm sure you can see your issue with the masculine can come out through me, and we just make these connections that not everybody makes. And I think that's a significant thing for people to start paying attention to, is to notice what you're doing, and then seeing it come back to you, but through somebody else. That's the way that karma works. It's coming
And
back to
treating it
you.
differently.
Right, and
And
reacting differently.
treating it differently than you would normally
Right.
treat it. Because if you keep doing the same thing, insanity. But
Yeah,
if
the
you try
definition
something
of
different,
insanity.
right?
Definition of insanity, you expect different results while doing the same thing. So, if you want new results, you need to do new things. And people don't apply that to their everyday lives, but that's exactly what it should be applied to.
And I like what you said about applying baggage, like, you don't want to bring old baggage. You don't
Right.
want to do the same things that you've always done. You don't want the new person to pay for what the old person did.
Exactly.
All of that. All of
You
that.
right. You don't want to apply blame where it's not due. And
Right.
I did I had a
Because when you do that, you're placing an emotion on someone that they have no idea where it comes from. They have no idea you know, why you're
right.
doing that,
There's
why
a
you're coming for
disconnect
them
there.
for something that is not theirs. Right,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so important because it's so important to recognize in yourself. I recognized in myself before I met you. I realized my relationship issues. I started realizing them before I met you, and I was working on myself in different manners. But it's so different actually working through them, like being in an argument. Uh,
With like a
I
workbook. It's what it is. It's like with someone that understands. It's like going through it with a workbook, you know?
right, but but when you're the person that's doing the argument.
Mhm.
So now what happens between the two of us, just to give the audience a little heads up, is one of
Okay.
us will be upset about something. Uh, it doesn't matter if we're right or wrong,
Mhm.
but just one of us will be upset about something, and then the other one won't be, and will the other person that's not upset lets the person that's upset work
Just
out
be. Yeah, let's
their
them be.
own shit.
Mhm.
Yeah, because we both know that at the end of the day, we're like, "All right, hold on, let me take a step back,"
Well, you have a
she
choice. You can let it be or you can perpetuate it and make it worse.
right.
You know, you
And when you let it
it's
be, you let the person come to their own recognition of them being wrong or doing wrong, and then they're forthright in apologizing. And I talked
mm,
on this earlier, and it's, well, if you're telling people that they're wrong all the time, then you do something to them, even subconsciously, you're doing something to them where they're being beat down as being wrong. But when you allow them to come to the conclusion that they were wrong, then they'll apologize for it. And that's what we do very well, I feel. That we're not
yeah.
judgmental of each other.
If we don't address the issue before, before bedtime, then that's the time, you
Mhm.
know.
Right.
Sometimes we need a couple minutes, sometimes we need an hour, sometimes we need all day.
hmm Yeah, we've had any issues just like any other couple. We're not on here
Mhm.
pretending that we don't fight or we're happy go lucky. That's just not the case. We, you know, and it's not necessarily that Mimi does something to make me upset, but I'm just in a upset mood and I'll I'll say something that if she's not realizing that I'm in a mood, and if she's not just gonna let me be like she was saying, then she can perpetuate it, and then I will be upset with her, but
Right,
she
and by
has
doing that,
the
I'm
right to be
directing
upset
it
with
my
me.
way.
Right, and but she has the right to be upset with me for, uh, being, quote, unquote, "out of line" with her when she didn't do anything, but she also recognizes, "Alright, let him be, for a minute, and he'll recognize what he did wrong, and he'll come back and apologize."
Mm,
And that I think is the ultimate key, is to that you don't hold your ego. I don't hold my ego to where we're like, "Oh, why are you treating me this way? I didn't do nothing,"
mhm.
which Maya says to me all the time. I not she doesn't say that, but she says it in that way, like in a very defensive way, like,
Mhm.
"No, no, 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 no." Like, that's
Mhm.
just going to make an argument, and we leave
Right,
our ego
because those
aside.
who aren't aware, I think, feel more attacked when
Mm,
approached, and we, when approached, understand what's happening. Other people don't, so they feel attacked. Like I used to feel attacked, so, when we first were kind of going through things and we first started to talk about, I'm not used to talking through things. So at first I would feel like you were, attacking me when you weren't. You were just like, here's the issue. And I'm like, why are you coming at me with, and that's not really what was happening. It's just how it feels to somebody who's not fully aware, I guess, at that time.
right, because I knew for me, see, I came from a place of so much darkness that I realized that the truth to power, is real. Speaking truth is the most powerful
Hmm.
thing, and just being honest is the most powerful thing that there is. Yeah, literally the most powerful thing that there is
Yeah, not
being
just speaking
truthful.
truth, but speaking up. Speaking up.
Right,
When
right,
what me and
exactly.
you are learning together is if there's an issue, let's talk about it now versus bedtime. Because if we wait till bedtime, then we're kind of ruining the whole day, by
Yeah.
masking it up with other stuff for the day.
Well, and not
We're
even
just
that.
ignoring it.
Yeah, but not even that. It's say something. Okay, say I leave dishes for in the sink every day for a week straight. Now, the first day, you know, someone's not going to say something. The second day, someone's probably not going to say something, but they're going to be annoyed. The third day, they're definitely
Hmm.
going to be annoyed, maybe say something. The fourth day, okay, now I feel like you're purposely doing this. The fifth day, it's like
Right.
all on war. And if you're holding that in the entire time, by that seventh day, it's a knife wielding gunfight. Uh, because of
Right.
a dish that if spoken up the first day when it's not an issue, it never becomes an issue. And that's what we learn together, I think, is what you're saying here is that I was pointing out to you, I'm like, hey, just if I do something that bothers you, tell me and we'll handle it.
Hmm.
But you were like, came from a place that if you did bring something up, your ex would then maybe belittle you or not listen to you. You weren't being heard, so you didn't speak. And then you would speak when you let it build all the way up. So I'm like, just speak to me before it's an issue. And we got to that point. But there was a learning curve, like you said. And
Hmm.
and it's uh I was understanding of it
Yeah,
because
it was like you kind of let me know it's okay to like say something to me.
right, and I
Like,
that's
hmm,
what I knew that you weren't holding on to it because you wanted to fight with me, but you were
right.
afraid to fight with me because you were afraid of the results of a fight, so that you just held on to it until you couldn't
Hmm.
any longer. And
Suffer in silence.
right, right. And
Yes.
and I feel a lot of people do that. A lot
A
of
lot of
men,
people
a lot of
do
women,
that.
they hold
A
on to it
lot.
and we keep track of bad things. And it might not be an everyday occurrence, like I was just saying with the dishes. It might be every month on the third, around the third, this person does this. And then it might be, oh, every 3 months they do this. So then it's like 2 years later, by the time you hit the seventh time doing it, and they explode and you're like, whoa, where's all this coming from? I've done it 6 other times. You never said anything. And, this is two
Right.
years later. And it's like
Mm.
so many issues start from that because people don't speak the truth. And it was a learning curve, but it was because we both had this loving understanding of one another that firstly there was something greater than us that pulled us together. We had that very mutual understanding that we weren't necessarily
Absolutely.
trusting in each other. We were both trusting in God. And
And go ahead.
and you know, the next stage of that is healing because at first, like I said, everything was so perfect. It felt so right. But then once we have the first arguments, the first few arguments, it's like, whoa, wait a second, this isn't what I signed up for. I was perfect for this long, and then we realized that we had to uncover our own issues. Eventually, we realized that we had to uncover our own issues, our own relationship traumas that we were healing. We were having this play with a new character, uh, doing the other lead role so that we could then finish the play in a more pleasant way.
Mm.
Yeah, I like using the terms the same issues with new characters. That's something that that's a good way to view it because it's the same argument you're having.
It is. It's like you have to master certain levels in life, and
Mhm.
they're going to keep coming back in a different form until you get it until you master it. And then once you've experienced it and you've mastered it, now you can teach others how to experience and master them too.
Right. Right. And if I'm annoyed at you in general, and then you do something, I'm going to view it through a lens of annoyance. It doesn't matter what the thing is that you do, I'm going to view it from the perception that I'm going to be annoyed. And that's where the loving understanding comes in, is that that's what our basis is that there's this mutual loving understanding.
Hmm.
And when we have that as the lens that we see each other through, even though we might put each other through some bullshit or some meaningless, stupid things from time to time, we have a loving understanding that it is eventually going to either better us or better the other person. And if it better either way, it's going to better us as a couple, our
Right.
relationship.
It's a level of respect for um, just knowing that we're all going through things.
And
And I hold, and you hold a space for me and I hold a space for you to be able to work through your thing or my thing or whatever thing, we
Mhm.
allow each other that. And
Yeah.
that's important. It's
it's
very important.
it's so important because it doesn't matter how good the relationship is if you're not allowing the person to work out their own shit, then
Hmm.
then your perception of the relationship is
Then you're
probably way
perpetuating
off
their
base.
shit. Yeah.
Well, not
Hmm.
even, yeah, you're perpetuating it. Yeah, but not even that, but like how we can recognize that something occurring with maybe something occurring with your boss, or maybe something occurred with my boss, and then we can just enlighten the other one to know, be like, hey, well, you kind of did this to that person. That's very similar the other day. Is it the other person or is it maybe you? And we do this to each other. We challenge each other. Like, was it you that was wrong? And I think that us respecting that the other person's doing that, when they're bitching about someone else, or something went wrong, or whatever the case is, just an outside
Mhm.
character that we're talking about,
Right.
we view it from a perspective like, well, maybe that person wasn't wrong. And
Right.
that is a huge way to better yourself too, is bringing your awareness to where you were wrong, even when you think you were right. And then you're going to, your soulmate of all people. Of course, they're going to side with you, but then they don't. And then it's like, oh, wait a second.
It's annoying, but it's also helping you be aware. You're like, oh shoot, he's right. Okay.
Right. And it is
Uh,
super annoying. But then once you recognize that that you were wrong, then you correct other things in your life, and you're like, "Oh, I was having this bad interaction with my boss over and over and over," which is just a karmic circle, a karmic cycle that kept happening because the wrong response was being deployed. But once you recognize and you had the awareness, now you change the response. Now what happens to you is different. It's not insanity anymore.
right.
Right. So, that's another way that we're healing each other. And it's such a beautiful thing, too, because sometimes it just blows my mind when I'm like, you know, if we get in an argument, or maybe not an argument, but uh, there's a point of anger because of something was done, or frustration that something was done. And I'm like, oh, same play, different characters. I remember when my ex did this to me. And then I'm like, okay, not gonna, you know, now that trauma is cleared, because now, my partner now just allows me to freely express myself. And once I get it out, then I can collect myself, I can apologize, and move on.
Hmm.
and apologizing, being forthright is not an easy task. And I've apologized uh, to, I'll apologize to anybody if whenever I'm wrong, wherever I'm wrong, I'll apologize.
This is true.
I've apologized at the dinner table be, for
Hmm.
for being out of line, and I go to my daughter or my stepdaughters and I tell them that I was wrong, and it doesn't matter why I did what I did because obviously there's reasons for getting upset or
Right,
being
whether they
angry,
understand them or not, it doesn't
right?
matter. Right,
And I don't bring up any of the reasons, none of it. I
right,
just say flat out, ladies, I was wrong because that's the example that I once set forth for them
right.
that that it doesn't matter what someone did to me. I'm wrong. And I should have controlled myself better. I shouldn't have said this. And maybe like what I apologize for, maybe it didn't need an apology. Okay? But I felt like I should because I felt like it was the right thing to do. So I apologize because of that. And that does so much healing being the one to apologize. And I
It
know
does.
it's
And it doesn't, and it also fills, the people that you're apologizing to, uh, it gives them a better understanding. Even though there's not an explanation, they're like, okay, this, he's sorry. He acknowledges what he did. Can we forgive him? That's what it boils down to is can I forgive him? He actually apologized. So,
right. And I want them to have that mindset that
mhm.
when someone's wrong, they should apologize because not only is it I'm a man and they're female, so that they should want if they have a male partner that they
That
should
and
want
if you
they
didn't apologize,
it
there would just
lingers.
be an elephant, yeah, in the room all the time, and who wants that?
Yeah, and not only that, but that also shows them that they should be honest.
Mhm.
And even no matter what the other person did to you to provoke you to the point that you got to that point, no matter what, you shouldn't have acted that way. And that's what the
Mhm.
example that I really want to set. And it comes up, like you said earlier, organically. It naturally occurs. And if it doesn't naturally occur, then it's not a real life lesson. That's the one spiritual thing I've learned
Mhm.
over and over is that it has to be organic. Everything has to be organic, and we have to organically fight and these feelings of frustration or annoyance or whatever, they have to organically come up, not so that that we have to fight, but in order to get rid of the trauma that we have inside of us that caused that, we have to look at it, and it has to come up in order to look at it. So it has to be an organic thing. So you know you and I arguing, which then triggers me to apologize, all those things are organic, and they help the healing process in so many ways because now I'm not just healing for me, I'm not just apologizing for me, but all those traumas that those uh that everyone else had from that other character, like I said, same play, different character, the different character that was me, I'm taking on their karma basically and accepting it. And what I do by doing that is then it kills it and it makes good karma come back. So
Yeah, like alchemizes it.
yeah, yeah, it filters it out, alchemizes it. Exactly. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's the same play. I mean, everything is
A-
always
And
the
he,
same thing. It's just different characters.
right, and even if you're viewing it in that lens, so are the people that you're putting on the performance for. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you're also uh, keeping them from experiencing a trauma by apologizing instead of perpetuating anger, fear, all of that stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's fear, we definitely, have been getting rid of the fear mindset in our household, and
Mm.
ourselves and our relationships with everything. And now, not necessarily that you instilled fear in your children necessarily, but
No, 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 no,
just
no.
fear, you know, a lot of
Any
feelings
fear,
come
like
off of
I,
fear.
right, like I fear doing these interviews. I'm just scared to be on a microphone, people listening to me. You know,
Yeah, and you're
I'm
doing so
not, I
wonderful.
don't have my video on because, it's still a little fear that I have. But I did a first interview and now I'm doing round two.
And you're doing
And
so
one
wonderful.
step at a time. Yeah. And you are walking with me and doing what you do best. You're holding a place that I can't hold right now. You do that. You know that it's going to be great, and that's all you will ever tell me is it's going to be great. You're going to be great, and you hold that thought for me until I can get there myself, until I can hold it myself. The same
That
thing with work, with quitting my job and doing the paint party stuff full time. You're as fearful as I am. You are very encouraging, and you hold the success for me until I can hold it myself.
No, well, actually, we can talk on another point is support, how we are supportive for each other, and we're not ever pushing each other. I think that's a huge relationship thing is that we just completely we're the trampoline net, and we just stand there.
Right.
We're just there
That
just in
makes a
case you
lot of
fall.
sense. That's right. That's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
like I'll do my paint stuff and you're just like, I'm here if you need me. Let me know if you need me. If you need my help with something, I'm here. And with
right.
your podcast stuff, I'm like, all right, I'm here,
Mhm.
but like I don't know any of that, but I'm here if you need me. You do you, and if you need me, I'm here.
Yeah, but more than that, let's talk about when I first moved here, I got a job the first week, and I was making good enough money. I was making
Mm,
like $600. I was making enough money in 3 days of work that I only worked the 3 days, and I only worked this job for, like, 3 weeks, and it sucked. So
yeah.
so Mimi the whole time is telling me, she's like, "Hey, if you wanna leave," I was only there for 3 weeks, but she told me probably like 4 or 5 times, she's like, "Hey, if you wanna leave,"
Enough times for you to, yeah.
Yeah. So when, it came down to it, I was like, Wednesday was my last day of the week always, and it came to be Wednesday, and I was like, "Hey, this is gonna be my last day." And the guy was like, "Oh, okay, thanks for, telling me." But I already knew where Mimi stood on it, and now
Well, I think that's one of the things that I finally reflect back, I'm like, well, obviously I knew something. Either it was the way you were acting when you came home or what you
Mhm.
were
I was
saying,
exhausted.
or maybe it was just, the vibe I was getting from what you were saying, but I knew that like
It
you
wasn't
didn't want to
me.
be there and I was like, I don't want this to make you miserable, and then we all have to, hear miserable. So do what you need to do, man. If you need to quit, like that's okay. It's
Right.
okay. And that's kind of what you did for me. You're like, it's okay. If you feel like this is not fulfilling you in some sort of way, it's
Right.
okay.
Right, and so you've been telling me you've wanted to quit since, like, last summer, and the entire time, I'm just telling you, I'm like, "Hey, you don't I'm not pushing you into it. I'm not saying, 'Yeah, you should quit.' I'm
Oh, there was
not
way too
doing
many
that."
factors for me to be pushed into it. There was way too
Right.
many factors.
Well, yeah, I'm not even doing that, and,
Right.
I'm not you asked me for my opinion, and I would give it, and I actually, earlier on in the year, I actually at that time, I suggested that you stay. This was, like, January, maybe, like, December. We were talking about this, and I
Yeah.
suggested you stay.
Hmm.
And, but I was like, "Hey, if you don't, that's fine, but, that's my opinion." And then it got to be, what, March or
Yeah, it was
whatever.
the same thing. It's like you know what's about to happen, but you you wait it out. You wait and see what happens. But you
Right.
already know when you look back, you're like, I already knew I was leaving. I just wasn't, I just didn't push myself that day.
Right. And then when it comes up again in like March, then
Hmm.
it's like I'm like, look, I'm not telling you
Nagging
what to
me.
do. I'm gonna support you no matter what it is. And then it gets to a point, and I did help you get over the last little hump, because it came down to the day that you're like, oh well, am I gonna go into work and hand in my letter of resignation? And you're like, but it's too late. And it was like 5 o'clock on a Sunday.
You're
You're
like,
like,
I
but it's
can't write a
too
letter
late.
this late. Will you write a letter for
Yeah.
me?
Yeah. So then I wrote something. I was
But
like,
I
here.
only right, and I didn't use like any of it.
Yeah. It did it.
But
I wasn't writing it
I
for
needed
you.
you. Well,
Yeah.
you were writing it for me, but I
Right.
didn't. I had zero plan of like using your
Right.
letter,
I had, yeah,
but
I
I
knew you
needed
had
you
zero
to
plan.
do it so that I could look at the letter and change it around to make it what I needed it to be able to do it myself. But
That's
I
right.
needed like the kickstart, and you were like, "I got this. Like, here's your whole letter. Like, you can just give him this."
Yep. I
Because,
was
yep. And then I just went in and revamped it and handed it right over. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this.
right, and I just wanted to support you
And I
the
think
whole
I posted
time.
on Twitter like, should I do this? 'Cause I still wasn't sure. Like, I need to do this, but I'm so scared. Like, I gotta stop being scared. So I
Yeah,
jumped. I took the jump. I took the
well,
leap.
yeah, you did it, and I was there to catch you. And then even
I'm
after
still
you
have a
did it,
couple weeks left, so I'm still working. But
right.
in 2 weeks I will be not working for the man. I'll be working for the woman, me.
Well, and I'll say 2 weeks ago, you were really stressed out about it, and then we just talked about what was going on, and it turns out that, you didn't necessarily know that that's what was causing your frustration, but then we talked it
Oh,
out,
I
and
did. Hmm.
oh, okay. But well, once we talked it out, you're like, yeah, all the reasons why I knew I was quitting, or why it's okay to quit are still there. So you're like, okay. I wasn't telling you anything new. I was just kind of reminding you, just being that support beam for you again. Like,
And the reasons why I shouldn't quit were lies. They weren't, they weren't of importance. You know,
fear-based uh
like,
things.
uh, I need my salary. Okay, I do
Right.
need money to make it in this world, but I have my own business.
Mhm.
I can put more energy or less energy into it. I can make more money or less money, and by working for somebody else, I'm giving somebody else my energy. Why do people do that?
Right.
I
And
don't
it's
want to do that anymore, is what I decided. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to put that amount of energy into myself
into your creative.
and see what happens.
Mhm.
I know that if I put that energy in myself, I won't have to worry about uh, money in
Right.
the sense that everyone worries about money. It's
That's
going to be
exactly
there
right.
when I need it. I can work harder. I can not. Now, of course, I'm always going to work hard because that's just me. But
Well,
that was one factor, is the money. And the other one's like insurance. Okay, well, how often do I really go to the doctors? I'm a pretty healthy person,
mhm,
you know? So how often do I really go, and does it matter? No, it doesn't really matter. It's not a reason to hold on to something that is bringing me such misery, you know?
yeah.
And my brain being fully occupied all day with things
Mhm.
that just are useless.
Right. And I see it was wearing you
In my
down
life, they're
mentally.
useless.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
mentally weighing you
mentally
down.
yeah. Not that it was hard, it was just occupying my mind with useless
Yeah,
stuff.
you couldn't think of the beautiful things because you have all this information in there that shouldn't be in
Yeah,
there.
and it's a constant flow, for 8 to 10 hours, and then, you go home, you eat, you go to sleep. So
Mm,
for the majority of the day, my mind was occupied.
right.
Not by what I wanted it to be occupied by.
Right. Right.
And so that didn't feel good to me.
And people, they often they have this mindset that if they're not doing what they're currently doing, then they're like, "Oh, I don't know what I would do for money." That's the first thing people normally think. But the thing is that no matter
You would figure it out. You would figure it out
no
real
matter
quick. If you were
what,
thrown into the pit, you would figure it out.
yeah, no matter what you did before, you got to the point in your life that you're at right now. You
Mhm.
survived by doing what you needed to do in the time that you did it.
Right.
And you don't know how
100%.
you're gonna react until you're in the situation. So, it's just a fear-based thought that, "Oh, I need this money or I need this job for the money," because you didn't need that job before you got that job. You 'Cause you had other jobs, and you yourself, you've been a single mother of 3, you did a ton of different jobs,
Yeah, I've
uh
never held more than or less than. I've never held less than 2 jobs at one time with a max of holding 5 at one time.
Right,
It's just all I know is to work my butt
right.
off to raise my kids, and that's such backwards thinking that
Well
working hard is raising your kids well. It's a little backwards.
well, it's yes and no, but if it takes, I mean, it's that well, that goes to your morals and values and, where we are in society. So you can't really I don't blame you for thinking that because that is can bring you things that lead to better relationships and better things and better upbringings in a general sense
Mhm.
because you're not worrying about the necessarily the immediate things, but it does lead to other things when you're not home. Obviously, it leads to other possible issues. So there is a give and take, but I don't think that what you said was out of line right there because you were doing it too because you had the mindset that working harder would create more money, but it you know,
Which would be better for them, right,
right, right,
right, right,
right,
that's your thinking, 'cause that's what
right,
everybody tells you, make that money, do better, you know?
right. And nowadays we as society were afforded the ability now more than we were even 5 years ago to make our own money, to become our own earner, and not need a paycheck from somebody that we can go do it. And it's always
Right,
been there,
self-employment and
right?
entrepreneurship yes.
Right. It's always been there, but I think now more than ever, it's so apparent that uh, you don't need someone else to make money. You don't need to go work for somebody else. You can work for yourself. And I think that that is going to be a big mindset change on the whole of society. But what comes with that is learning how to garden and farm and supply
Yes,
yourself with your own food.
yes.
So, we'll leave that for another episode when
We're
we'll,
slowly working on that,
yeah,
little couple plants at a time, let's see if I get some tomatoes, let's see if I get some peppers.
right,
They're looking good, but let's see. Let's see what happens.
right. We're getting there, but, uh, you know, um, is there anything else that we want to talk about on this episode? We've been going for almost an hour and a half now.
Oh man, that's it. An hour and a half. I feel like it was shorter than an hour and a half.
Yeah, I know it does go by
Okay.
quick. Once you get into the flow of things, it just starts going by really quick. But I think we touched on everything we wanted to talk about because this episode is about relationships and what we've done and real life stuff of you know,
Right, and they know your traumas and things. Now everyone doesn't know mine necessarily. I don't know if they will or won't. We'll see.
mm,
It's we'll see.
yeah, and I don't think that
So
that's necessarily important to even know for, what we covered in today's
there's many
episode.
other episodes that I can join in on, and I'm sure uh, things will be talked about in a very organic way. If they need to be said, they will.
Right, and that's how we like to do things, keep things organic. I don't typically refer to my notes all that much. I do sometimes. Well, for interviews, I'll have notes, just like talking points that I want to talk about, or maybe a few questions I want to ask someone specifically. But for the most part, it's just organic conversation. And if our conversation goes towards something uh, that I wanted to speak about, that's the best conversations. And that's what this one did. And we didn't even talk about beforehand, we didn't talk about the support aspect. And then we just spent the last 15 minutes talking about how supporting is the healing of each other. And I just think that anybody listening to this, if you first need a partner that is willing to be the observer in their own life and to really
Mm.
analyze themselves and say, can I be better? Can I be doing better? I think that's what needs to happen by both parties. Maybe not even at first. Maybe they can just do
I
the
just
fake
think
it till you
people
make it.
individually need to do that. It has nothing to do with dating. I just think individually people need to
Right,
work on themselves.
right. But I just meant in this capacity from this
Hmm.
episode, talking about healing relationships is just, if you're already in a relationship with somebody, that first you have to agree to better yourself. And what will then happen is everyone in your life will notice that you're bettering yourself, and then they will better themselves. So if you then have a plan with your partner to, I'm going to better myself, you're going to better yourself, and we're going to make a better relationship. And I'm going to hold my tongue when I want to say something, and you're going to hold your tongue when you want to say something, in a ignorant way or whatever. Like, that's what we have to do. So you have to discuss, kind of. We didn't necessarily discuss it, but we came
Slowly.
together this way. Yeah, and
Hmm.
so I'm giving these tips to somebody because if I was in a relationship that's salvable, or was it salvageable? Uh, salvage.
Salvageable.
Yeah, salvageable.
Salvageable.
Yeah,
Okay.
but if you're in a relationship that is salvageable,
Meaning it's crumbling and we're going to salvage
that you
what's
can,
left.
yeah, that you want to make it work, that you're at least both of you want to make it work. If
Hmm.
if that's
Then
the
you have to
advice,
be willing to do the work.
right?
You have to show up. You can't half-ass it.
Right, and that's the advice that I would wanna hear if that's the type of relationship I was in, like, okay, like, these people aren't selling me, eh, flowers and unicorns, they're talking about how they argue and they don't agree on it, and they didn't know exactly what was happening when they met, but, there's some oddities that stick out, but at the end of the day, this is sound advice for anybody. Like, I'm not gonna give any advice that I wouldn't take myself, but it's you know, the things that we talked about, this is real stuff. If you want to
Hmm.
heal your relationship, if you first, like Mimi said, you have to heal yourself, and you have to be willing to look at yourself as the person who is wrong all the time. So, um, you know, if you're willing to put in the work, then you you will fix what needs to be fixed, but you just have to observe. That's the important part. That's everything that I tell you guys about on this podcast is all about you becoming the observer in your own life. Be a bystander in your own life. Be, Ebenezer Scrooge seeing uh the what was it, the ghost of Christmas present, taking him to watch himself. But do that always. You don't need a ghost there to do it. You are the ghost. Just watch yourself. Analyze yourself. Was I incorrect with what I did? If you were, go apologize. And then don't do it again. It doesn't need to be harped on how wrong you were. Just you can forget about it. You want to make sure you correct the incorrect action and then move on. There's no point in staying in the negative, in the low vibratory thoughts. You acknowledge what you did wrong and then get the hell out of there. And your partner, if the partner isn't a willing participant at first, they will become one because they'll see how you're treating them better and they'll start treating you better, and then they'll gradually gravitate towards wanting to treat you the way that you're treating them. And if you guys have a plan together, that's even better because then you're really working in tandem. So we hope to have on a few different couples and talk to
Yes.
them about what it's like and how they've been
And how their
healing.
relationship works and how they heal together and work together. Yeah.
Yeah. And I look forward to that. It's going to be some fun. We have one couple already, pretty much scheduled. We don't have a time and date, but we're going to get them. So I really look forward to having a conversation with them.
I love the singular interviews, but I'm very interested in doing these couples interviews because I think when you finally get to that point where you have that support system or that person that understands what you're trying to navigate, it's a different experience. So, I want to hear other people's experiences.
Yeah, and there's not too many couples that are both awake. A lot of people you'll see it's like
Yeah,
my husband's still
half and half.
asleep or
Hmm.
my wife's still asleep, but having both parties
But
awake.
they're so aware that they're holding space for that
Mhm.
person.
Right,
That's the trick.
right, right. Yeah, that is the trick. And
Mhm.
what I'm gonna take out of this is that I think that the term awake is just you becoming the observer all the time. That
Yeah,
uh,
aware. Hmm.
yeah, that's not necessarily a
It's
spiritual
an
awakening,
awareness.
right? It's a spiritual awareness. Yeah, it's just
Hmm.
and it's not even spiritual things that you have to be aware about. It's mental and emotional things that you have to be
Yes,
aware
just
about.
awareness. Hmm.
Hmm. Right. All
Agreed,
right.
agreed.
Well, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Do you want to plug your business real quick?
That would be on Facebook. We are Georgia Girl Art Paint Parties. And go like and share and join our little group page for some special deals coming up June 1st.
Right. And do you want to tell them what your business is a little bit?
I guess I should, huh? So Georgia Girl Art Paint Parties, we make custom door hangers, wood door hangers that I hand cut myself, and my business partner paints, and we seal and ribbon, et cetera, all kinds of designs, hundreds of designs, hundreds.
And what's a
Uh,
paint party?
a paint party is where we would teach you how to paint. We can teach you how to paint your own door hanger, or we can teach you how to paint a canvas step by step. You can learn all about it on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I suggest you guys go do that because it's a really good time. Every time she comes home, she's like, "Oh, they loved it." Everybody has a great time doing this painting thing. It's such a creative thing, and it's such a flow state uh, that she has to make things up
It's a
to
good time.
to throw her off in order to not have a good time. You
It's a
know.
great way to be creative.
Hmm.
Let yourself go and You
Yeah,
know,
and
have some
who
fun.
doesn't have a good relaxing time painting? That just sounds so relaxing. You just taking broad
I'm not
strokes.
going to tell you what the customers say, but because it's not, this is so relaxing. That's not what a lot of them say. But, uh, once you get a glass of wine in you, that it gets a lot easier.
Oh, well, there you go. So yeah, go join that Facebook group. The link is also on the website for the podcast, which the website is the Great Chakra Awakening 777.podbean.com. And you can go on there and you'll see if you're on a desktop, it'll be on the right hand side. You'll see a whole bunch of links. It'll say Facebook, YouTube. It'll have interviews of me on other podcasts, and then it'll say Georgia Girl Art Paint Parties and Door Hangers. You can click on that. It'll take you
Yep.
right there.
If you see anything you like, we ship anywhere and everywhere. We've shipped internationally now, so
Yeah, but
get you something.
the paint parties would have to be local. You'd have to be close to Savannah in order to get a paint party. But you can get the door hanger anywhere.
That's right. Unless you would like to get us a plane ticket to wherever you want us to host one, I'm game.
Hey, that might be a new thing. People being flown in.
Well, you
in
never
order to
know.
do
I
paint
mean,
parties. That's
somebody
right.
might need me somewhere.
Hey, that's
They might
right.
need us somewhere, and here, and they know that who to call.
Yeah, so also check me out on the website, and I do have a Patreon. I don't have anything up on it at this moment, but I will be putting things up there. Right now, I have the different clubs, the different uh, dollar amounts, but I don't exactly know what I'm doing for them yet. So I just put general support because I don't want to categorize what I'm going to give and that someone needs to pay more in order to get more. What Patreon is basically, I'm trying to make it just a donation thing that you can still get all my stuff for free. I don't know if Patreon even does that. I've never used it myself. I haven't been a subscriber, so I'm new to it, but I I just want the donation there in case somebody wants to donate. If someone feels that the content that I'm putting out is worth $1 a month or $3 a month or $5 a month, whatever it is, if someone feels that it's worth that, then they can donate. But if they don't, then they don't have to. So that's what I want to try to do. I don't know if Patreon will allow me to do it that way. I have to figure things out. So you can look for that. That is patreon.com/Great Chakra Awakening. And if you want to email the show to get in touch with me for any reason, the Great Chakra Awakening 777@gmail.com is my email. And you can find me on Twitter at walkswithnature1, but there's no E from nature. All the links will be in the description, in the show notes, and everything is on my podcast website. All the links are straight on there, which is the Great Chakra Awakening 777.podbean.com or tinyurl.com/goodness-over-darkness. All right, well, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for coming by. And Mimi, any final words?
That's it. I think I'll be ready for round 3 sooner than I thought.
That is excellent news. Because if she's ready for round 3, then that might mean that bonus
That means you
episodes
better
get
do it right
dropped
away. Or I change my
during the
mind.
weeks. All right. Well, that'll do it, everybody. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Bye.
I will only tell the truth.
People cannot abide truth. no matter who tells you.